everyone. Thanks for joining. And hello, welcome to our COVID-19 Crisis Recovery and Growth webinar series, Marketeer Roadmap to Local Success. So hope everybody is doing well from our home to your home office. I hope we are keeping safe and hopefully shelter in place is gonna be easing out soon. Today we have great, actually really good friend of Milestone and phenomenal speaker on our panel. First off, we have Greg Sterling. If you are anywhere in a local ecosystem or in digital, you are probably reading his articles. In fact, I remember last weekend, I read 15 articles, and in those 15 articles, 7 of those are Greg's articles. So I'm sure you're reading his article, you appreciate all the amazing insight he provides, and specifically around local. We also have Andrew Shotland. He's the president and founder of and CEO of Local SEO Guide. And again, he's our vice president of Bay Area Search, great friend of Milestone, and Andrew has some great stories to tell us. Actually, first question I have for you, Andrew, secret behind this picture, but we will take that later, right? Why?
A fun fact about Andrew that nobody knows is that he was Bobby on the Brady Bunch years ago.
Ah, that's why we have that background.
Just for the pilot, Greg. They didn't pick me up for the show runs.
Awesome.
I've been having to do SEO ever since.
Awesome. And we also have Satya Krishnamurthy, our CTO of Milestone, who does all the magic and all the amazing stuff at Milestone, sharing some great insights with everyone. So let's get started. I think a lot of people already know Milestone, but for those of you, if you are not familiar with Milestone, Milestone provides an omni-channel digital platform and services for B2B, retail, finance, hospitality industry. Our entity-based technical SEO solution dramatically helps businesses increase voice and local visibility. We are managing location presence for almost 11,000 businesses with our fully integrated platform solution. We serve hundreds of brands, and for now, we are white labeling our solution and platform to agencies and all the partners. And again, I didn't do a good job of introducing myself. I'm a president and founder of Milestone. And during these hard times, our goal is to share 23 years of experience, which we have gained a lot of insight in helping brands and location-based businesses to improve their online digital presence. And yes, we will all come out of this together, and that is the goal for our webinar today. Just to kind of give you a little bit background of why crisis recovery and growth model came around. 6 weeks back, I think, believe me or not, it's almost 6 weeks when shelter in place was first started. We kind of started thinking that this is really a new normal. We all the businesses today needs to adapt to new normal, and our goal as a provider is to bring in something, how do we adapt to this new normal? New normal really include changing our business plan, changing our communication, changing all the strategies which we used to do, and it's not gonna work. And that's where we pulled together CRG webinar series, which has, I think some of you have already attended these webinar series. We are having it once a week or once in 2 weeks, where we have experts around the globe sharing some of the latest and greatest and what is working during this new normal. Before we get started, we had done a webinar series last week and previous week, which was around marketeer plan. And then we have next one, which is focused around healthcare and the last one for this month is around B2B and content and growth marketing. Please do check it out. All of this is on Milestone COVID Care page, which can be accessed through our website. With further ado, I'm going to just give you a little bit background of what we are covering today. We will take question and answer. We are going to, all the attendees are muted today, but we will take question and answer, and there will be enough time for everybody to get their answers. And if we couldn't answer your question, we will definitely reach out to you. And all these slides are going to be available. Recording will be available too. What are we covering today? Overall impact of COVID-19, right? It is something none of have ever seen, but we have to figure out what are we going to do to get out of this crisis? How are we going to prepare? And what are the behaviors which are changing? How strategies are changing, and what is working and what's not working? Some of the examples, Andrew and Satya, they both are going to share with different brands, big brands, small businesses, what is really working and how are brands leveraging, or actually leveraging is probably not the right word, but how are they connecting with their audience? What are some of the helpful resources and actionable crisis recovery growth list for all our audience today? So with that, I will have Greg take it on. Greg, I'm going to advance all your slides and let me know if it's not going at the speed your mind goes. Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Okay, I just want everybody to know that I've taken my weekly shower in honor of this webinar today because I'm on camera. But you can't tell that I've got vodka in my coffee cup. Those are jokes, by the way. All right, so in a serious vein here, I'm very honored and happy to be a part of this, and Satya and Andrew have some great, very tactical, concrete advice for you, and my role here is really to sort of establish the context and then provide some perspective on consumer behavior and maybe some abstract best practices, which they will illustrate with concrete examples. So we can go to the next slide. I'll just say huzzah each time I want to advance the slide. Actually not. Okay, so we all know that this has impacted everybody. Enterprises, small businesses, workers, and consumers. Next slide. I probably don't have to tell anybody this. There have been a lot of layoffs in the United States. About 11% of the workforce has lost its job or been furloughed in less than the space of a month. This is a major concern. Consumer purchase power and consumer confidence is a major concern. As we see, consumer sentiment is down across the board. This is one index that measures intent to make major purchases. One bright spot here is that after the stimulus passed, there was an uptick in confidence in the economy. So that may be hopeful for us as people start getting their stimulus checks and businesses get loans and so on. Next slide, please. Small businesses in particular are really getting hammered by this situation, and many of them are having trouble applying for the PPP loans and other kinds of relief that have been made available. There's a lot of stories about that. This slide really stands for the proposition that it's impacted most of the small businesses in the United States, and they're concerned about recession. Next slide. So a lot of discussion and debate is going on right now about what is the recovery going to look like? Is it going to be a V recovery? Will it be a U, a W, or an L? And all these things are kind of economic models for how quickly the recovery happens. V is fast, U is slightly less fast, and L is very long. And we hope that it's more like V or U than L, but we're going to have to see. Next slide. So what is this all doing to consumer behavior? I mean, you on this call, on this webinar, everybody is a consumer. Everybody is sitting at home, buying stuff on Amazon to the extent that you can, getting groceries delivered, all these things, not going to cafes, not going to restaurants. Next slide. Google has kind of conceptualized these behaviors that have arisen in the wake of work from home and shelter-in-place orders in three categories: immediate needs, new day-to-day, and emerging behaviors. And immediate needs is stuff like food and local store hours for essential services and financial assistance, unemployment assistance. These are things that people need right away. They're searching for these things. New day-to-day is more casual stuff, but often tied into productivity. So you're buying office furniture and supplies, you're looking up sourdough bread recipes, and you're trying to figure out how to, keep yourself modestly in shape, not gaining more than 15 or 20 pounds at home, that kind of thing. And then on the emerging behaviors, there's a little bit of overlap, but these are things that people are trying to do to entertain themselves, sort of bring the outside world in, virtual tours, etc. So, fitness and beauty. So these are kind of, these kind of exist on a continuum of urgency in a certain sense. But this is the way Google is talking about these behaviors. Next slide. So SEMrush data, search queries that are rising and falling, we can see that the categories, very much related to what I just said, productivity, fitness, food delivery, and then in the declining category, of course, entertainment, major purchases, live events, and travel. Next slide. But interestingly, local search is very much still happening. I've just written a short report on this that's available through the Uberall website. Still back one. Jumping the gun, sorry. That's available on the Uberall website. If you send me an email to greg.sterling@Uberall, I can send it to you. That's just a freebie, not self-promotion, although it may sound like that. Anyway, local search still happening. What stores are open, grocery delivery, those kinds of things still very much happening. Next slide. Okay, so the slide that you should be seeing in a moment, just in a very, yes. So this is a Uberall data. You don't need to know what any of these particular charts say. Basically, globally, literally globally, this is from 650,000 business locations across 5 countries. What we're seeing is driving directions are off by about 50%, obviously, for obvious reasons. But website visits are up, and phone calls basically are flat to increasing. And this is pretty much across the board. Certain categories are up, certain categories are down. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I did talk about that kind of stuff just in the previous slides. Next slide, please. So this is e-commerce. Similar pattern here. We've got certain categories that are seeing surges of interest and purchase behavior, and others that are not. And some of the same story here. Entertainment, fitness, grocery, all these discretionary expenses, restaurants, clothing, apparel, these are all losing out in this kind of urgent situation that we're in. Next slide. Similar data from a different source, top 100, although I've only included 25, fastest growing e-commerce categories, top 100 declining categories, same story. It's really about needs, people's needs, immediate needs, food, health, those kinds of things versus discretionary and luxury items. So we're seeing those kinds of things fall away, except perhaps for the 1%, but for most people, giving way to the more immediate needs. Next slide. This slide stands for the proposition that there are a lot of new e-commerce users and lapsed e-commerce purchasers that are now back. People report shopping online more than they ever have for obvious reasons. And one question that will obviously be interesting to see in the next 9 months, 18 months is how many of these behaviors continue on, right? How much of this new behavior sticks. Next slide. So what are marketers doing? Next slide. People on this call are directly experiencing this. If you're a vendor, to use the term that nobody likes to hear, you're seeing people pull back, ask for forbearance, other kinds of things. If you're an advertiser, you're reevaluating your campaigns, you're pausing your campaigns, you're shifting to different channels. This is going on across the board. It's impacting Google and Facebook. It's impacting everybody. People are still spending money, but often they've shifted the channels. So advance. So in a B2B context specifically, 61% report declining budgets or decreased budgets in some measure. Not drastically in most cases, but to some degree. And then live events, which really has hurt B2B sales reps, because live events is where you do a lot of lead gen and face-to-face meetings and demos. A lot of that stuff is being replaced by webinars like this one, or other kinds of virtual events, virtual conferences and things like that. Next slide. So what are people doing with their event budgets, their live event budgets? On the left, that's going into things like content, webinars, search advertising, social media, and SEO. People are redeploying those budgets, or in some cases, not using those budgets. And a very positive, no, back one, thank you. A very positive stat here is that, and this is one particular survey, so any isolated survey needs to be sort of taken with caution, but the majority of these CMOs in this sample, which was about 250, said they're doing more marketing. Now, that doesn't mean they're doing more advertising in every case, but it's a positive sign for the industry. So next slide. And then keep going. All right, so these are the principles that you've seen in 1,000 emails and 1,000 articles already, but they're worth emphasizing. So what are some of the principles that guide our interaction with customers during this kind of time? Empathy is one, right? If you're trying to sell something, if you're trying to push your message and not acknowledging the situation that your customer or your consumer is in, that's problematic. Authentic communication, very, very hard for brands to do, but important. Being helpful, putting the customer or the buyer or the person on the receiving end at the center of your thinking. And then consumer dialogue, engaging in feedback, asking your customers, asking your partners, what do they need? How can you be helpful? All of that stuff. A lot of companies are doing away with acquisition right now and focusing on current customers for retention to strengthen those relationships. It's not happening in 100% of cases, but in many cases. Next slide. So this is very hard to read. You can go back and look at it later, or if you're seeing this on demand, you can leisurely browse through it. This is Google's advice that I collected to brands. And there's a lot of interesting and good stuff here. Basically, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. Give people detailed and current information. Keep it coming. Connect with your customers at whatever level. They recommend, I mean, there's some debate about this, but they recommend a regular publishing schedule. You know, depending on your vertical, depending on your industry, would influence the content. And then pivot to platforms that make sense for people staying at home. You know, you really have to evaluate and reevaluate everything that you're doing. What makes sense for your customer or for your audience? Next slide. So this is the channels that really you should be focusing on. So SEO, regarded by many people as the most effective marketing channel, not by everyone, but by many. That's an area that people should not neglect in any way. Paid search and paid social may be good investments right now because CPCs or CPMs are down. Your competitors may be abandoning their campaigns. So this may be time to kind of swoop down and take advantage. Also, if you are a business that has primarily sold through stores and you're now trying to promote e-commerce, this is an opportunity to do that through those channels. And then content, which is a big area of focus for everyone. Content is critical and it's very challenging. Next slide. So there are some kind of, I've tried to compile a list of new rules for content. This is also sort of a dense slide, but basically, you know, similar values, right? You need to really focus on how your content is helping your customer, helping your audience. Does it pass the will this help my customers litmus test? If not, don't do it. You know, don't do anything that looks like you're exploiting or capitalizing on the virus or the pandemic situation. That's going to be immediately, you know, ridiculed or ineffective. People have different ideas about whether you should keep publishing on a regular schedule or not. What value can you provide that's unique? That's very challenging, but you probably do have things that are unique that you can provide. And one of the things also to think about is to be flexible, evolve as the situation evolves. Things are very dynamic right now, and you need to really be agile about the whole thing. And you should also be planning for the future. Have some content that plans for, like this webinar and others that Banu and Milestone are doing, plans for the recovery and the growth phase. We're about to enter the recovery phase, which may be protracted, but we'll see more activity. And then don't neglect SEO. Keep some content going that's going to benefit you in the long term. Everything shouldn't probably be COVID, coronavirus. You should pay some attention to longer term considerations that are going to help you when things return to normal, whenever that happens to be. Next slide. I think that's my last slide. It is. All right.
Thank you, Greg. And absolutely well said. Any content you produce, let's make sure we are producing something what our customer needs or what your customer needs. With that, we are going to have Andrew share his insight. Andrew, is it okay I should advance, or would you like to advance? I think, Andrew, you are on mute.
Okay, you can advance it for me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Go ahead.
So before I jump into these slides, I actually want to speak to something Greg said, because whenever marketers, particularly SEO marketers, say, oh, you really got to keep the SEO on, it always comes off as very self-serving. And so it is self-serving because we do SEO, but at the same time, what Greg said about longer term is why SEO is sometimes a really good choice, because if you have to turn your ad campaign off, the SEO keeps working whether you're running ads or not. And so if you've done SEO well, it should help. It probably won't make up for all the conversions you're losing from turning your ads off, but it can kind of save you a lot of money by not spending on ad clicks and actually maintain your business at some level. That said, if you have a brand that generates a significant number of brand queries, so let's say like a big brand or even a big local brand, that you're going to want to look at how those brand queries are converting, because it's super easy to turn off your brand targeting on your ads, and you'll get that quote unquote free traffic for brand queries, but they may not convert as well as the paid ads. So you want to take that into consideration when you're thinking of moving budget to different marketing channels quickly. Anyhow, let's go on to the next slide and talk about some tactical things. So when Banu reached out about this webinar, kind of just asked, like, what are we doing for to address the situation with clients? And the answer is probably, we're not doing anything that I would say is like, oh my God, this is such an amazing genius thing. We're really just using the limited set of tools we have to kind of improve the situation for our clients and for our clients' customers. So we're working with AutoNation, which has 600 Google My Business listings around the country. Half of those are dealerships, half of those are service centers. And what you can see are kind of two ways we use Google My Business posts to address the situation. On the left is a simple messaging. We wanted to make sure that people who are doing queries for AutoNation dealers knew that they were open. A lot of businesses were shut down in mid-March, and AutoNation service centers were still open. And so we just did a simple thing like, hey, let's put a "we're open" little image up there. And that actually did really well. In parallel, AutoNation came up with this service that they'd already had, but we really didn't know much about it because at the time, before all this COVID stuff happened, it probably wasn't a high priority service. But they had a disinfect your car service. And so we came up with, or AutoNation came up with the idea of promoting that service, and we realized that Google My Business would be an effective way to promote that. So we created a Google My Business promotion for their disinfectant service, and that ended up doing quite well because people didn't even know they needed it, but they were probably searching for queries around their different dealers, and they saw this message and something like, that's a great idea. So a really good example of how the SEO people can work with the marketing people in-house to kind of take these really relevant assets they have and create a simple program like Google My Business Posts that can be effective. And Google My Business Posts are actually really quite easy to do. For a single location, you could probably create one in maybe 30 seconds if you have access to your Google My Business dashboard. For multiple locations, it's much harder because Google doesn't allow you to do, let's say, 1,000 at a time, except for the new COVID Google My Business posts that they implemented about a week and a half ago. Let's go to the next slide, Manu. So this is an example of 2 GMB posts that we've done for Sam's Club. Sam's Club has about 5,500 Google My Business listings covering locations and department listings. The bottom one, the blue one, is a COVID update we used to take advantage of Google's new COVID Google My Business posts. It's the first time they've allowed you to post to more than 10 locations at a time with a GMB post. And so Sam's Club wanted to get the word out about what they're doing, the special programs they have for COVID. They have special hours, concierge service for seniors. They're hiring more people. They've hired something like 100,000 people to help because their demand for a store like Sam's Club has kind of gone through the roof. They have toilet paper there, I guess. And so we created this very simple GMB post. We're able to launch it very quickly. And the click-through rate on this post is astronomical. Much different than what you'd see on a normal Google My Business post. And so it's been really quite effective at helping Sam's get the message out. After running that for a week, we decided, maybe there's something else we can do to, maybe for people who aren't just concerned about COVID, or actually interested in shopping, there's still people buying things. And so we saw that Sam's had a $200 off patio furniture sale going on. And so we thought, let's try to promote that. The trick though is that you can't do scale GMB posting in Google My Business. It doesn't allow you to do it for non-COVID posts. So we've actually built a technology that allows us to do this at scale. And so we were able to implement this within about an hour. And now Sam's has both a COVID response and a kind of a revenue generating response off of Google My Business. And we just rolled this out, so it's not clear how it's doing, but it's okay to start selling stuff. There are people still looking to buy stuff, maybe not as many as there were 3 weeks ago, but it's still okay to sell. You just need to be, as Greg kind of mentioned, kind of sensitive to what your customers' priority needs are. So the great thing about Google My Business, it's not the only channel you should be using at this moment, but it's so simple to use. And it doesn't require any technology really, especially if you have a small number of locations. I know there are certain industries that don't allow Google My Business posts, like hospitality, but the majority of businesses can use this technique. Anyways, so those are kind of some of the things we've been doing in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure we're trying to think of more stuff to do for our clients, but right now these were like the simplest, easiest opportunities that actually paid off quite well for them.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. And a lot of questions coming in. We are going to take all the questions after Satya is done with sharing his insight. But just a quick recap. It's okay to sell, but as long as you're putting it around context, it's as long as we are helpful.
Yeah, like I don't think I would be like, hey, we're all about helping people with COVID and now here's a TV, buy it. Like, you have to kind of separate those messaging a bit.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. And with that, Satya, is it okay if I advance the slide, or you would like to do it?
Yeah. No, this is fine. Okay. All right. Hey, guys. So let's look at some glass half full, some positive message. That's the data from today. Spam callers actually declined by 17%. And this is actually a great news because you will get less and less spam calls as you are sitting at your homes and spending time with your family. So that's a positive news. Let's start with that. And let's get into what we are proposing or what we have done. Right now, we have broken down, as Benno discussed, when this hit us, we wanted to break down and come up with a structure on how we're going to engage our customers, as well as how we're going to engage our own internal teams. What do we tell them, what to prioritize, what to tell, what to execute on, and things like that. So we came up with a plan. We broke it down into, as the title of this webinar is, into CRG. And for right now, we are in crisis mode, and a lot of the topics that what Andrew discussed about GMP posts, updating your Google My Business, that's one of the things that we are doing at the highest level. There are other things that we are doing, and I have some examples and I have some metrics that I want to share with you. This is in fact an internal table that we use as a reference as we progress through this pandemic lifetime across pandemic life cycle, right? So let's jump into what we are doing in crisis stage at this point, and most of my discussion will be around addressing everything in crisis stage. In the next slide. First and foremost thing, again, Google My Business, as Andrew mentioned, is a great place to start. But there are also other channels wherein you want to first go ahead and update your description, update your business information. What has changed as far as your business is concerned during this time? It's going to be very critical to communicate with your customers. Make sure that message is loud and clear. Make sure that you are propagating that consistent message across all the key channels. Google is a key channel. Again, Yelp, Facebook, Apple Maps, any channel where you want to update this information. What has changed as far as your services are concerned? What has changed as far as your business status is concerned? Are you open for business? Are you closed? Are you not doing any business at this point? Are you waiting for shelter-in restrictions to be removed before you can start doing business? It's a good idea to communicate this at this point. Let's go to the next slide. And it's important to also have that information propagated across, because not everybody is looking at one place. They have their own apps. They have their own information. And here I do want to spend a little bit of time on key places where you do want to, based on your vertical, you do want to spend some time. GMB or Google My Business is a place absolutely I would love to make sure that all our businesses are updating their information, whether directly on GMB or if you're using any vendor, please make sure to update GMB. Yelp is also another important channel where we are seeing some traction, some impact. Again, Bing is another channel where they have opened up some COVID-related activities where you need to go ahead and make some updates regarding your business. For Facebook, again, there is an increase in Facebook customer spending time on Facebook right now. So Facebook is definitely a channel where you want to spend some update your information, because they are looking at Facebook. OpenTable for specific verticals, restaurant verticals, definitely make sure that OpenTable business information is updated. If you have switched from, say, in-place dining to a delivery model, make sure to update it in OpenTable. Make sure to update that in Yelp and Google My Business. I do have some examples where we have done that switch for our customers. If you go to the next slide. And as Andrew mentioned, creating local posts, we found that to be very effective. In addition to local posts, it's also critical to have updated information about how your business has transformed. So let's look at a couple of the posts. As for US Bank, basically they updated the information to reflect their hours of operation, which has changed. And they wanted to make sure that all their customers know the fact that if they're searching for bank operating hours, they can actually not only have the updated hours on the business description, but also as a Google post to make sure that they're getting visibility on about this change that is happening. The US Bank is operating normally. It is just that due to COVID, they are basically changing their hours of operation. Renault Mexico, basically their car dealerships are open, very similar to AutoNation example that Andrew showed. But they do want customers to not come in and get infected or manage the social distancing. So they want to make sure that the business is open but stay safe. Sprinkles, cupcake guys, they switched from they had to shut down the stores or close the stores, but they switched from closing the stores to more online delivery business, which is again I have some excellent data to share on that. But it's critical to understand that there is a new normal that Sprinkles is adopting to, wherein they now the business is continuing to deliver online businesses operating as usual, but they want to make sure that their customers can basically reach them, and that's critical as well. And so ensuring that your customers know that you're operating in a new normal is going to be very critical as you go in. And informing your customers through Google Posts, what we saw as some of the key metrics was that we do saw spikes, a huge surge in views and click-throughs, as Andrew mentioned, and we do saw huge growth in bookings, as well as we saw a shift, the same shift that Greg mentioned. We saw a decline in request directions and increase in call view, where customers are reaching to these businesses either to understand what has changed with the business or how they can place online orders, or go directly online and start doing online transactions with the business, right? So this is about local. This is about all the changes that you can do with local. Now, what can you do with your website? Now, immediately after the crisis hit, schema.org and Google announced special announcement schema. We went ahead and updated special announcement schema across several customers, and what we are seeing is this special announcement schema actually showing up for branded and non-branded queries. This is actually critical information that your customers need. You do want to know what have you changed as a part of this this new normal. What are the changes that they need to be aware of? What are the changes that you are ensuring that you're communicating to your customers? This is again a great schema that you can leverage as a part of your website. Make sure the content that is changed, content basically that reflects your business changes, special announcements that you want to share with your customers are marked up with the right schema. And what that has resulted in, as you can see in some of the search results for branded and some of these branded and unbranded, non-branded search terms, we are seeing some of these pages show up. In fact, some of them actually in rank 1 as well, with specific updates from the business marked up clearly, right? And this is pretty critical. And what we are seeing is this schema performance for special announcements are also showing up when people also ask an FAQ queries as a part of the Google search results. And we are seeing a huge spike in COVID-related queries as a part of pretty much any business, and they are looking to see if the business has any special announcements that they can leverage and make sure that this can be communicated. And we are one particular thing that we are seeing is that frequently asked questions. If you have specific frequently asked questions on how your business is addressing some of these COVID-related issues or some of these pandemic-related issues, how your business is handling or how your business is tackling these issues, marking them up through FAQ schema, we are seeing those long tail queries are getting much more and more visibility in organic search results. If you can go to the next slide. Updating your website landing pages with information is absolutely critical, and make sure to highlight what are all the things that are changing. If you are basically promoting the fact that, hey, make sure that you stay at home. We are shut down at this time, and enforce that message. Folks, banks basically want to announce the fact that they are supporting providing mortgage relief for some of their customers, or they are part of the PPP program that they are basically accepting applications. All of that information, make sure to have it on your homepage. Update your landing pages with this specific information because your customers are really looking for this. And if you have changed your policies, Marriott rolled out a huge changes to their cancellation policies as a part of this program. Make sure to have links. Make sure to have information on these cancellation policies as a part of this because your customers are looking, if they have made travel plans ahead of time, they are looking to figure out how this is going to impact their travel plan, how it's going to impact their overall strategy. So update them, provide information to them as a part of on their cancellation policy or changes to the business or any other additional information that will help mitigate some of their challenges that they are facing right now, right? If you go to the one interesting fact we are noticing as a part of our overall email marketing is that as folks are staying at home, they're spending more and more time on their desktops, laptops, on their phones. And this has resulted in a significantly high open rates as a part of email marketing campaigns. Now, if these are informational emails about your business, definitely do reach out to your customers. If it's a new normal, how your business is operating, definitely reach out, communicate this message. And as Andrew and Greg mentioned, it's less about buying and selling. It's more about caring, because the same challenges and concerns you have about your business is what the consumers are going through with their families. So show that compassion, show that you understand the needs of, you understand your customers. Keep the messages short and crisp, and keep the messages positive, because that really helps you to build the awareness and trust with your customer, and as well as you are communicating to your customers that, hey, my shops might be closed, I'm still open to delivery, so definitely do reach out to me, right? Next slide. Social channels, and as I mentioned before, social channels are seeing a huge surge in, similar to email. There is an increase in activity in the social channels. Definitely do keep your social channels active. Some of the, and again, same messages as before. New normal, communicate the fact that you are change the way you are doing business. But at the same time, if you are not going to do business, but you still want to keep in touch with your customers, make sure to keep it informational, keep it more authentic, keep it more aligned with what your customer needs are. Right? And keep the message crisp and simple.
Great.
And that's about it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Satyan. Absolutely, really, really well said. I think everybody is getting ready for new normal, from doing collateral to doing online videos, how-to videos, FAQs. And, I had created really good one place for all the resources. Andrew, Greg, and Satya, all of us have published, Milestone has published great resource. And I do have a link for those material in this presentation. But before that, I wanted to share something that just caught my eye this morning, because of course I didn't want to cook today. And what is midweek slum? And this came from Open Table, where they gave out option to buy or option to get delivery and takeout. And again, this is exactly what Andrew and all the speakers talked about or shared, that yes, it's okay to sell, but let's be very sensitive how we are selling, how we are packaging, and aligning it with our new normal and our customer intent and their needs. There's another one which I have it actually from my son. He's in Seattle, and when we go and meet him, we always go and dine at Taste of India. It's a really good Indian restaurant. I think he must be missing home. As he ordered some food, they gave him $10 gift coupon. And I do see a lot of local businesses, a lot of international brand with local store locations are giving that hey, buy this $10 or buy gift coupons for future. But the messaging is full of empathy. Messaging is, we are thanking for you for your business. So just a few examples I kind of wanted to share here. I know there are a lot of questions, so I'm going to come right into the questions. But here are a few resources. Please go check it out. If you go to Uber All, we have great article by Greg Sterling. And if you go to Local SEO Guide, Andrew has tips and tactics and all the places you can go to learn all about what is happening around this topic. What is Apple doing? What is Google doing? What are all the channels and partners and everybody's doing? If you go to Milestone COVID-19 page, you have all the webinars we'll be doing. You also have a downloadable PDF, which our team created, with full of resources, helpful tips, where should you go, what you should be doing, with every single thing you want to know to maintain your local visibility. And definitely share your feedback. You can tweet us, you can email, give us your feedback. What are you missing? How can we be more helpful? And what challenges you're facing? So with that, I'm gonna just go through a quick checklist most important thing, update your business listing. It is actually even more critical for you to update your business listing or your storefront online today, because that's the only way you are communicating with your customer. Whether you are shut down or you are changing your hours of operation, most disappointing thing would be that when your customer comes to your store location and your hours, your description, your delivery methods are not updated. And good thing is that every single brand is, or every single local channel is showing, being flexible during these crisis states. So they are allowing posts, they are allowing a lot of things around COVID-19 and making it easy for businesses to communicate with their customers. Number two, engage, right? Yes, it is a crisis time. And if you are a business owner, absolutely. Or if you are even managing a huge organization, totally understand what a crisis you're going through, but still you have to have some kind of a communication, which is, it's okay to sell, but it aligns with what your customers are looking for. And just remember, all of us are there together, right? So your COVID-19 page, FAQ, email communication, flexible policy, buy today, gift cards offered. It is, it's a time for us to connect with our customers, connect with our audience, being part of a community. I reached out to Andrew and Greg and I say, hey, let's pull something together. So it's just part of a community, being helpful and, enabling, connecting with people who cares. Number three is adapt to new behavior. Really look at how people are consuming information online, mobile, no touch. There are just so many new ways brands are communicating with their audience today. Virtual events, right? A lot of trade shows have been replaced with virtual events. So how do you make sure that you're talking about those virtual events on your site and on your local listings? There's special announcement schemas, which are just released for COVID-19. You can deploy those schemas, and once, hopefully, when we go through the recovery phase, that will help your customer understand what you're doing as a business. And you can also use these schemas for further announcement if your business gets open or makes changes and things like that. And yes, paid, I wouldn't say paid is not working, but yes, you should evaluate your tactics and channels, and maybe not a broad campaign, maybe a very narrow campaign, really focused around your target audience and their buying behavior and their touch point. So with that said, I think, I'm going to open it up for question and answer. We wanted to make sure we can offer something to our audience. I know there are a lot of audience here, a lot of people who joined in today. First 30, Milestone will provide a complimentary audit, which is talking about schema, mobile, all SEO, everything you need to know about SEO. And with that, I am going to open this up for question. Give me 1 second. I already have 55 questions here. I see a lot of friends. Okay, so top 5 things. So let's start with Andrew. Andrew, top 5 things I should do in GMB.
Sure. And while you were speaking, I kind of went through a lot of questions and just gave some POVs on those. So feel free to share those. Okay. Top 5 things. There's no top things. There's just a bunch of things you can do. But in general, if I had to say what are the most important, you want to have, first of all, you want to claim and make sure your data is correct on your GMB, including the categorization. That's pretty critical. Add all the options that Google allows you to add: photos, videos, Google My Business posts, whatever you can. Don't worry about product, Google My Business products. That's a new service that kind of isn't very good. So don't feel like you need to do that. Make sure you have relevant content, particularly on the landing page of your website that links from your GMB page to your website. That's pretty helpful. and then get reviews from your customers and get links from other sites. And that's basically our top few things to do with GMB.
What about business name and description during this time?
You mean like, hey, we are COVID friendly or something?
Well, so Google's allowing people to spam and keyword stuff and put things like take out in the business description in the business name, and some businesses are changing their description to be more topical. Do you have any?
So that's no different than it's always been. You can be aggressive with the name you use in Google My Business, and it can affect your rankings for various queries. So you should be experimenting with that, but you also need to understand the risk. If you experiment with that and you trip a wire, you stand up getting your listing suspended. Most of the time what will happen is it just doesn't take, or it gets rewritten. But we have had cases where businesses have changed their name to something more keywordy and got suspended. And in that case, the ways that we've been able to get them unsuspended is basically create a sign at the business that says like keywords, let's just call it takeout, like Joe's Takeout in Pleasanton. And basically going in with a video, walking into the business, showing that sign hanging in the business as its real world business name, and then submitting that to Google My Business Support. So if you want to go through that hoop, there may be a benefit to changing your name, but be prepared to jump through hoops if it doesn't work.
I was talking about temporarily for the crisis, but
there is another question, and assuming that and I think this is a question everybody do think of, assuming that many markets will start opening soon, however, so soon or gradually, is it really worth the time and resources to focus on crisis response if it's likely to have a shelf life of a few weeks? Or should we be focused on recovery, or what should we be doing?
I think it's totally context dependent. As an example, we have a retailer client that is, had to shut down its stores and furlough its employees. And so they're trying to figure out, okay, when can we open and start having people come in? At the same time, they're like, you know what? We've neglected focusing on online for the last 5 years. And now we're kind of in a hard place. And so they're using this as a time to kind of retool their online strategy, because inevitably a lot of this stuff is going to be online anyhow, regardless of how we feel about walking into stores. So yeah, maybe in the short term, it's not worth dropping everything to focus on this, but it's a good way to get this thing going that you've probably been ignoring for your entire business life.
I would second what Andrew said in the sense that there's going to be much tighter integration between digital and real world businesses going forward. That's going to be one of the legacy aspects of this, is those businesses that are diversified and that have this kind of online to offline user experience are going to be in a much buy online, pick up in store, for example, real world inventory, real-time inventory, other things like that are going to be more successful than those that have neglected the online or have treated online and offline as two totally separate channels. I would also say that there should be some acknowledgement, however marginal, by everybody about what's going on, because you just seem like an idiot if you don't say anything at all. I mean, you don't have to devote your entire resources to it, but you need to recognize, you need to acknowledge it in some way.
Right.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of second both their points. I mean, the key thing is that even post-crisis, one of the key change in the customer behavior is that they are getting used to doing things online. They are spending more time online, and they are getting used to ordering things online. So the expectation would be pretty much every single business would need to have some form of online presence, and that would mean that you have a stronger website infrastructure. You have a stronger you are focusing on some of the basic SEO things that you might have neglected because you had a very strong paid media campaign running. But this is probably the time to look at that and rebuild some of the infrastructure items.
So I guess in other words, this is a time for us to integrate more, right? It's not, yes, some of the businesses, if you are sharing content, let's say gym, right? A lot of gym classes are now available online. So if consumers, are they going to stop going to gym? I don't think they are going to stop going to the gym. But if if gym builds that brand loyalty, and people are going to go back to gym, but they are going to go back to gym where they have that community and a loyalty. And so it is engaging in a very meaningful way. But to Satya's point and Andrew's point, in fact, today it's more critical to focus on things which is going to enable you to connect with your audience, right? From takeout delivery to speed of how you are connecting with communication, right? What are you communicating online to offline? Is your content team really working closely with your paid team and SEO team, aligning with what your customer needs? That whole omni-channel nirvana is gonna really gonna help any business today. I think we'll take two more questions. Actually, we did clarify. Does Google knock your ranking? Knock your ranking? I'm not able to follow this question. Okay. There is a pressure to cut cost and cut down paid marketing significantly to reflect low demand. How would you think about how much to invest in paid? I think this is a local session, but personally, do you guys want to take it on? I'm happy to take it on.
I have a comment here. I know Greg also made this comment before. People are cutting down on spending on paid marketing, but it depends on the business as well. If you are a restaurant business who are switching to a delivery model, definitely spend on hyper-local marketing where you are reaching out to your audience, mentioning the fact that you have switched to a new business model. And spend if you are other business where you are shut down, definitely spend more time on awareness campaigns. But you need to rethink about how you invest in paid at this point rather than a previous life where you just pray and pray.
Exactly, and actually much more synergy with SEO, right? The best paid people work their hands in hand with SEO team. What works in paid, you can use that for SEO and for your content creation strategy. Wonderful. So guys, I know we have only few more, just 2-3 more questions coming in. We will definitely answer all of these questions and we'll send you deck and recording. Please do give us feedback if there is, what did you think about the webinar and content and speakers and everything. But I want to give just 1 minute each to each speaker and just say last few words of wisdom, right? We are all looking for some, or anything we have look forward to, right? Or we should all look forward to. Go ahead, Andrew, we can start with you.
I don't have any wisdom. I just have a shameless plug. If you're interested in this topic, particularly from an SEO point of view, the local association that I'm a part of, BayAreaSearch.org, is holding a virtual webinar on April 30th. If you're interested, it's totally free. If you're interested in attending that, it's BayAreaSearch.org/events. And we're going to have SEOs from big companies, consultants, and agencies talking about stuff they're doing kind of similar to this. So there'll be some overlap, but probably some different perspectives as well.
Wonderful. Really, nothing is shameless now. Okay, go ahead. Greg, do you want to share something?
Sure. A couple of quick things. Search Engine Land is also a great resource for information. As I said, if you want the white paper I wrote on the pandemic and local search, greg.sterling@uberall.com, I'll send it to you. And then I would say something we didn't really talk about that's not particularly tactical, but I think it's really valuable, which is Banu made this point repeatedly about community. Your employees, to the extent that you have employees, are a community if you haven't laid them off, hopefully. Your colleagues are a community. You really need to rely on the resources and creativity and ideas of these people. Your employees are a great source of ideas, your colleagues a source of support and creative ideas. People have to really think in non-traditional ways now to survive. And there can be a lot of good that comes out of this time. I mean, if people are able to make it through to the other side, a lot of the things you do now will make you more successful in the future. And so, you know, have faith, be creative, rely on your community, and, you know, you'll make it.
Wonderful. Satya? I did not mute you. What happened?
I'll speak for him. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no. I can speak. I'm the less bearded Craig Sterling. Definitely innovate as a technologist. Definitely spend some time. Now you have some bandwidth. Definitely spend some time innovating. That's going to be crux, because as the market comes back, you have some new things that you can share with your customers, new offerings that you can go to market with. Spend time thinking, build your IQ, definitely build your empathy, because whatever suffering and pain that you are going through, everybody around you is going through the same pain, and some worse than us, some better than us, but the pain is the same. So definitely develop empathy, and of course, definitely improve your IQ and spend time on innovation, because this is a great time to innovate, because everybody's at home, they are thinking, they have a lot more thinking time, less time worried about stressing in traffic, and at least specifically Bay Area traffic, and or worrying about travel and things like that. So
I spend all my thinking time watching Netflix.
That's a great place. You can get a lot of ideas there.
I know. I would be getting ideas on how to stream it effectively. Great. Thank you so much. I know we are already past an hour, but everybody will be. I know there are a lot of questions coming in. We will definitely answer all these questions, and we'll be sending you a recording. There are a lot more topic coming in. There is going to be a webinar on leadership. There is going to be a lot exciting topic along with what you heard today. But thank you, everyone. And thank you, Greg, Andrew, and Satya for joining and sharing awesome information with everyone. Stay safe, and we'll connect with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.